Hello friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start our video with the story about navigating boundaries with a neighbor's teenager who crossed the line. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button, smash the like if you enjoy the content, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a juicy story. My neighbor's 17-year-old daughter stole my husband's shirt when she was visiting our house. To provide context, my husband and I recently moved into a new house. We quickly became friends with our next-door neighbors. They have a 17-year-old who acts weird around my husband. For example, she'd greet my husband by giving him a kiss on the cheek, while just shakes my hand. She always stands near their living room window in the evening when my husband's home. She'd come over with food she cooked and ask me to tell her if my husband liked it or not. She'd sit next to him whenever her family visit. She wanted to show him her room alone when we visited them, but he politely declined. He told me she asked for his personal social media account, but he politely refused to give it to her. Her behavior is obviously inappropriate, and it wasn't just me and my husband who noticed, her mother did too, and I was surprised when she told me that her daughter probably has a teenage crush on my husband, which, as she claimed, is totally normal and harmless. My husband just laughs it off and says that it's typical teenage behavior. I trust him and he keeps me informed of whatever she does. I tried to limit contact with our neighbors as much as possible. We stopped coming over, but she and her mom visit with other neighbors where they're forced to act polite. Last week, I had a small gathering with the ladies from the neighborhood, and my neighbor and her daughter weren't invited but came anyway. The guests were sitting in the living room the entire time. My neighbor's daughter kept asking when my husband was coming home in front of the ladies, and they noticed, but her mom quickly shut it down. I frequented the kitchen to prepare foods and drinks to serve and had a couple of my guests helping out. When I came back from the kitchen, I found that my neighbor's daughter had already left. I asked her mom, and she told me her daughter had some homework to do and wanted to leave early. I thought nothing of it. The next day, my husband kept looking for his work shirt and couldn't find it. We looked for it, but it was gone. I was confused because this is one of the shirts my husband wears regularly, and I was 100% sure I didn't throw it away, and I vividly remember seeing it in the closet the day before. In the evening, I got a visit from my neighbor, and she had my husband's shirt with her. I was puzzled. I asked where she got it, and she told me that her daughter took it from our closet and sneaked out with it and swore up and down that she didn't know until later because her daughter was hiding it and her mother discovered it an hour ago. I got very angry and pointed out that her daughter's behavior was way out of line, and this is considered stealing even if it's just a shirt, not to mention basically the harassment towards me and my husband. She went on making excuses for her, saying she's a teenager, letting her emotions dictate her behavior, and that she'll soon grow out of it. I flat out told her neither she nor her daughter are welcome into my house after she basically entered the bedroom without permission and stole the shirt. She said I had every right to react this way and again apologized for her daughter's behavior and again calling it harmless crush that we shouldn't take seriously. She kept apologizing either by sending messages or calling. I haven't talked to her in person since then, but her husband asked my husband what was going on, and my husband didn't tell them. Neither did I. My husband agreed that it was unacceptable behavior, but he told me that I was too harsh on our neighbor and should have just accepted the apology without saying hurtful things to her and telling her she's not welcome along with her daughter. But I don't trust her daughter after what she's done. My neighbor got the other ladies from the neighborhood to talk me into forgiving her and her daughter, but I keep refusing to discuss it. I feel so mad at the amount of disrespect I'm seeing, and I'm having a hard time setting boundaries since everyone keeps telling me let it go, even my husband. Mother and daughter came uninvited to your gathering. I can see why the girl doesn't respect boundaries. And our second story. You are in the wrong store. This has happened so many times during my years in retail that if I had $1 for every time it happened, I wouldn't have to work in retail anymore. What I'm of course referring to is when a customer comes into your store, says a product is on special, and then eventually realizes that it's on special elsewhere or it was on special last week. I block a lot of these out these days, but looking at an old Facebook memory today, I got reminded of one of my earliest and a classic situation like this. Back at the turn of the century, I worked for one of the two major supermarket chains in the country. Let's call them Colds. The location I worked at was what I would call Supermarket Central. If you had a supermarket chain, you had a location within 1 kilometer distance. There were about 8 or 9 supermarkets within a 1 to 2 kilometer radius of our location, and just within the immediate vicinity there were all 4 major chains, the 2 majors, a 3rd major that was about to go bust, and a 4th which is an independently owned franchise, all within walking distance. So it was common for people to start to get confused with which supermarket they were in. I was working the checkouts this one day when the customer, let's call him Mr. C, comes in. I'm there scanning his items when he notices a discrepancy with the price of an item. Mr. C: "Excuse me, the price of that ice cream is wrong." Me: "How so?" Mr. C: "Well, you've charged me $4, yet it's on special for $2. Me: "Let me just check on that. Where did you see it advertised on special?" Mr. C: "It was in your catalog." Me: "Okay, let me just have a look." I then browse the catalog and find no mention of the ice cream being on special. Me: "I'm sorry, sir, but it's not in the catalog." Mr. C: "Yes, it is." Me: "Sorry, sir, but I've just looked through the entire catalog and it's not in here." Mr. C: "Give that to me." Mr. C grabs the catalog out of my hands and then proceeds to look through it. He then looks through it a second time and then throws it down. Mr. C: "This is the wrong catalog. Why have you shown me the wrong catalog? I want to speak to a supervisor." Me: "Excuse me, sir, but this is the correct catalog. If you have a look at the front page of the catalog, you'll see the dates that the specials are on for." Mr. C: "Don't give me any of this nonsense. Leave all my stuff here. I'm going home to get the catalog that you guys put in my mailbox to show you what the specials are." Me: "Okay, sir." Mr. C left, and I did a deferred sale, even though I was not expecting him to come back. Amazingly, 30 minutes later he did, and he came straight to my checkout, trying to interrupt my sale. Mr. C: "See, I told you." Me: "Excuse me, sir, do you mind waiting while I serve this customer?" Mr. C: "No, you pay attention to me, and now." Me, to the customer on my checkout: "I'll be just a second." To Mr. C: "Fine, show me." Mr. C proceeds to open the catalog straight to where the ice cream is on special, but I had already noticed 3 things wrong with it, so I was going to bring each of them up one at a time. Me: "Firstly, sir, the ice cream that's on special may be the same brand that you're trying to purchase, but it's the wrong size." Mr. C: "What do you mean?" Me: "Well, the one you're trying to purchase is a 2-liter tub of ice cream. The one on special is the 1-liter tub." Mr. C: "I don't care. Still give me the special." Me: "Well, if I was to still give you the special, it would be the same sort of special as there is off the 1-liter tub, which would mean that you would actually be paying more." Mr. C: "This is just flagrant misadvertising." Me: "Secondly, look at the dates of the specials. This was last week's catalog." Mr. C: "I didn't know of the specials last week. You should keep them running for longer." Me: "And finally, I would like you to look at the store sign above you." Mr. C: "Okay, and?" Me: "And now look at the logo on the front of the catalog." Mr. C: "And?" Me: "Now compare the two. Are they the same?" Mr. C: Mr. C at this point became very quiet and quickly scurried out of there. Poor ice cream. Ice cream's so good and tasty. Now if any is purchased, it'll only be eaten out of anger and spite. And it deserves better. And our next story. Greedy grabbers get exactly what they take. Sweet older lady in our church was a retired nurse, never married, no kids. She had a heart attack, and while she was in the hospital, her niece and nephew thought she was dying. They came and took her stuff. Her apartment was small, but she had some very nice crystal and silver and some lovely antique furniture. When she came home, she had no dishes and almost no furniture. Niece and nephew denied it, but the neighbors had seen them carting everything away. Several years later, she passed away. Her most recent will, dated after her heart attack, left $1 each to her niece and nephew. Everything else went to the church. Her estate was $9 million. I love it when they leave $1 to a crappy relative so they can't contest the will. Brilliant. An amazing smack across the face to the crappy relative. And our last story. Someone broke into my dad's barn. My father lives on an 18-acre wooded property in Oregon that he and I jointly own. I live in California. He's into classic car restoration and started collecting barn finds over 20 years ago. Today he has more than 40 vehicles on the property, mostly in barns and old chicken coops, but all relatively well cared for. Most are classic cars worth non-trivial amounts of money, old Fords and Hudsons, 1960s muscle cars, that sort of thing. and he's whiling away all his retirement years, pulling out the cars one by one to restore and sell off. About a year ago, he started noticing small thefts from some of the cars. Hubcaps started vanishing, engine parts would disappear from previously running cars. One car had its interior partially stripped. He initially assumed that it was local thieves until a couple of months ago when he caught a couple of videographers going through one of his barns, documenting everything inside of it. While they waited for the sheriff to arrive, at gunpoint for what it's worth, the videographers explained that they'd learned about the property through a Barn Finds auto blog and discussion board. Apparently, the property had been found about 18 months previously, was described as abandoned, and had been visited a number of times by members of this Barn Finds forum. They also solved a mystery. About 6 months prior, my dad had found some deep, muddy ruts on an abandoned access road at the back of the property. We learned that a group of these guys had tried to rescue a very valuable and collectible car stored in one of the outbuildings, but it got stuck in the mud and had been planning on trying again. The property is now very well marked with signs prohibiting access, and we've restrung the barbed wire fences around the perimeter. My dad also felled 3 trees to block some of the old access roads on the side and rear of the property to prevent any additional rescue attempts. One problem is that the original website still has the information online, including detailed photos of everything we have on the property. They're still listing the exact location of the land, including directions about how to approach it to avoid neighbors, but have added a few comments about an angry old man living in a neighboring house who's trying to claim the abandoned property and derelict cars. Since catching the trespassers, our fences have been cut 3 times, a number of additional parts have vanished, including an irreplaceable steering wheel from a 1938 Mercedes-Benz, and the barns have been forcibly broken into several times. Because this all started when the blog's primary authors trespassed on our property, documented our cars, and falsely labeled them as abandoned, and because they continue to list them on their website, we want to sue them and recover some of the losses we've experienced over the past year. Between the new fence, signage, and the value of the lost parts, he estimates that we are probably out more than $15,000 at this point. We've identified the owner of the blog and believe that he has the financial resources to pay a judgment, but I'm not sure whether it's worth the effort. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.